Have you ever been in a spot where you knew exactly what the right thing to do was, but man, it was also the hardest thing to do? That's the tension we're going to get into today. We're talking about that complex dance between reason, will, and our feelings that shapes pretty much every moral choice we make.
So let's just dive right in with a classic. Would you tell the truth, even if you knew it would seriously hurt someone you care about? Yeah, it's not just some abstract philosophical puzzle, right? This is the kind of stuff we actually face. It puts our empathy and our feelings right up against our principles and forces us to choose a path. And you know that feeling of being completely torn, pulled in two different directions? That's not a bug. It's a feature. That's the heart of a moral act. It's right there in that gap between what we feel we should do and what our reason is telling us that our real moral compass starts to spin.
To really get a handle on this tension, let's first look at one path, the path of pure reason. A guy named Immanuel Kant really championed this idea. For Kant, if morality is going to mean anything at all, it can't be based on shifting sands. It has to be built on something solid, something universal. And for him, that solid rock was pure, impartial reason.
Okay, so Kant's starting point is, well, it's pretty wild. He says, think about all the things we call good, like intelligence or courage or even wealth. Any of those can be used for terrible things, right? He argues the only thing that's good, with no strings attached, is what he calls a good will. And it's not good because of what it accomplishes. It's good just because its intention is good, period. And this is where it gets really, really interesting. Kant makes this super important distinction. Let's say you have two shopkeepers. They both give a customer the correct change. The first one does it because he just believes deep down that being honest is his moral duty. That act, for Kant, has real moral worth. Now, the second guy, he's honest too, but only because he knows having a good reputation is good for business. He's acting in accordance with duty, but not from it. For Kant, only that first shopkeeper is actually being moral.
So this all leads to his most famous idea, the categorical imperative. You can basically think of it as the ultimate what if everybody did this test. Before you do something, you have to ask yourself, what's the rule or the maxim I'm following here? And then you have to ask, could I honestly, logically, want this rule to be a universal law for everyone everywhere for all time?
Right. I know what you're thinking. Universal law? That sounds super abstract. How does a logical test like this actually help you decide what to do when you're in a tough spot?
Well, let's just break it down with an example Kant himself used. Let's say your rule is, I'll make a promise I have no intention of keeping, just to get myself out of a jam. Okay, step 2, universalize it. Imagine a world where everyone operates by that rule. What happens? Well, the whole idea of a promise just completely falls apart, doesn't it? No one would ever trust a promise again. So the rule contradicts itself. It destroys the very thing it needs to work. And for Kant, that's a slam dunk. The act is immoral.
So here's the big takeaway for Kant. In his system, the will isn't this free-floating thing. A good will is a will that basically surrenders to reason. Its only job is to follow the logical laws that reason lays down no matter what. And yeah, sometimes that can feel a little cold. The emotions don't really get a vote.
But is that really the whole picture? Is making a moral choice just a matter of solving a logic puzzle? Let's switch gears and look at a totally different path from a philosopher named Thomas Aquinas. He gives us a much more holistic view of what it means to be human, one that actually finds a place for our will and our feelings.
And wow, is this a different picture? You know how Kant's view can sometimes feel like this constant battle between our messy emotions and our pure reason? Well, Aquinas is like, nope. He sees us as a unified whole. Our bodies, our souls, our desires, our intellect, they're not at war. They're all part of the same team, like an orchestra. Our feelings and desires aren't just annoying obstacles to get past, they're part of the music.
This brings us to a totally different idea of the will. Aquinas calls it the rational appetite. Let's break that down. Appetite, that means it's a desire, a hunger, a force that moves us towards things. But rational, that means the desire isn't blind. It's guided by our intellect. It's like a smart hunger. It's not enough to just know what's good. We have to actually desire it, to will it. So in this model, it's like we have a team with 2 star players. First up is the intellect. Its job is to look out at the world, figure out what's real, and chase after what is true. Its goal is pure understanding. And then you have the will. It has its own super important job to desire and to chase after what the intellect has pointed to and said, that's the good stuff. The intellect draws the map, but the will is the engine that actually moves us down the road.
And this quote just nails their relationship. It's not a dictatorship where reason bosses the will around. It's a partnership. It's a feedback loop. The intellect tries to understand what the will is striving for, and the will wants the intellect to get an even clearer picture of the truth. They make each other better.
Okay, so let's put these two powerhouse ideas side by side. Reason versus the rational appetite. This is where we can really see two fundamentally different visions of who we are and how we make our most important choices.
I mean, just look at the contrast here. For Kant, the will is basically just a servant of logic. For Aquinas, it's this active, hungry desire. For Kant, reason's job is to be a lawmaker, creating universal rules. For Aquinas, its job is to be a truth seeker, discovering what's good. And the biggest difference? Emotions. For Kant, they're messy, unreliable, and get in the way. For Aquinas, they're a natural part of us that just needs to be guided.
And this quote really sums it up perfectly. There's a real felt difference between these two. Aquinas' idea of the will feels alive, it's dynamic, it's full of energy. In comparison, as the quote says, Kant's will, well, it almost feels like it doesn't have a will of its own. It just follows orders.
So where does this all leave us? We've got these two very different, very powerful ways of looking at our choices. How do we actually use these ideas to build our own moral compass, to make better decisions? This is where having a clear, structured process can really help. You can think of it like this. Kant gives us a universal rulebook. It's got clear and partial rules that demand we be consistent. Aquinas gives us more of an integrated compass. It doesn't just give you rules, it orients you toward the good, and it uses your reason, your will, and your desires to help you find your way. Honestly, a good decision-making process probably needs both.
Ultimately, this isn't about picking a winner between Kant and Aquinas. It's about grabbing the tools they offer so we can think more deeply. A good framework for doing that is pretty straightforward. First, just get clear on what the problem actually is. Then, gather the facts, all of them. Figure out who's going to be affected by your decision. Then you can start weighing your options, using ethical tools like Kant's rulebook and Aquinas' compass. And after you finally make a choice, you have to do the most important step. Look back and reflect on how it went.
And that really brings us to the final question for you to take away. The next time you face one of those tough calls, you'll have this framework. Remember that a truly moral action isn't just a gut feeling. It's a choice made with reason, it's powered by the will, and it's something we get better at by reflecting on it. So, how will your next choice show both that clarity of mind and that strength of will?